Government has announced that shipping services to Niue are in for a change. The new route will mean the boat will now be coming through Fiji, American Samoa and Samoa. Matson took over shipping services to Niue since Reef went into receivership end of last year, but formally started services at the beginning of this year. The previous arrangement with Reef Shipping will see some minor changes to the shipping route and new freight rates according to the new route. Premier Tokitalangi says that the change will be beneficial for those who would like to import goods from Fiji or Samoa. The new route will mean a change in the rotation that will begin in August.
It'll change the rotation from 21 days that was originally agreed to 28 days. I think the current rotation has been too quick. The ship has been turning around very quickly, and I think the last vessel was here about 16 days after the previous turnaround. And I think the shopkeepers and importers were starting to have problems keeping up. But I also suspect that it's not always good to come in a port when the numbers are small and so on. So changing the rotation to Fiji allows us to import from Fiji as well as Samoa and Paupau. So that will give us some options apart from New Zealand at the present time.
These changes are also based on feedback from businesses that due to the amount of imported goods. However, the exports will not be greatly affected as the main exports at the moment are occasional honey and nonu.
Well, you can still export to New Zealand, of course, if you wish. There aren't very many exports at the present moment apart from the occasional nunu and some honey. The taros have dried up simply because they're not producing enough, or if they are, they're producing just enough for the local market and so on.
New freight rates will also be applicable for goods imported from the new route, but they are yet to be announced by Matson. The new changes in the shipping route will become effective as of August. Unoccupied homes on the island will be renovated under a new government proposal. Honourable Tokitalangi says there is interest in the new proposal.
I understand some people have applied. The key really is to make sure that the land has been titled and the ownership of the buildings that are on it are clear, so that the family are not disputing and fighting over it. And if they are, then we'll work with the family to lease the land and the property and renovate it and use it for accommodation, tourism accommodation.
He said the project looks to also assist village councils.
Well, essentially the lease will be probably for a period of about 15 to 20 years. The renovations, we will pay a lease payment to these people. I think the only other thing we'd like to see is the possibilities of utilising some of those funds to assist with the village councils.
And the returns from when these houses are rented out, will that be going to the families or to the council or to government?
Well, that's obviously going to the company that will be leasing the properties. The owners will get the lease, and we'll consider some of the other options that we have at the present moment to offer to them.
$200 from NZ will be utilised for the project. Early this morning, police received an emergency call to a resident in the village of Tuapa and has resulted with one young man placed in custody for disorderly behaviour. According to Chief of Police Tony Edwards, the police placed a young man in custody to cool down and have not questioned him regarding the incident. He said police is still investigating the incident and will know more once it's completed. Public interest in the business development grant has increased as people become aware of the grant made available through the Niue Chamber of Commerce. Honourable Premier Talangi says the $250,000 fund from NZ was initially held by the Niue Development Bank. However, the criteria appear to have been a deterrent and process cumbersome to the point where people were reluctant to apply. Premier Talangi says the funds were then redirected to the Niue Chamber of Commerce.
When the Chamber came and talked to me about part of the problems they had was the fact that some people had to put up a deposit And frankly, some of these businesses are struggling, and therefore getting a deposit is not possible. And even going to the bank was not a solution for them. So I said to them, let's open it up and think. I'm really pleased with the response. The idea is to try to stimulate the local economy, to stimulate the small businesses on the island, to give them an opportunity to improve their businesses, to purchase equipment, to purchase things that they need, which will help them. It's not, what is it, a working fund. It's something that they can purchase to help, say an oven, some tools for their buildings, some things that they carvers need, and so on. So those are the things. Even people, for example, who may need to replace the tyres of vehicles they used to go to the bush for their business in the bush and so on, we'll consider those. I think at the present moment we became too tied up with the idea that you've got to set a criteria to the point that, in fact, it became paralysed by the criteria.
According to the Niue Chamber of Commerce, over 160 applications were received from the 2 rounds of applications, and the open grant allowed applicants to request up to $4,000 each. Although the focus is on assisting business operators, there has also been support to some farmers and informal trading businesses. Premier Talangi says that the key is to stimulate growth of businesses and, in turn, the economy. And to end our news bulletin for this evening, Rugby Sevens tournament on the island will continue sooner than later, as the Executive Committee and team managers met to decide on the outcome of last week's tournament. Niue Rugby Union representative said the decision has been made for the next Sevens tournament to take place on the 29th of June. The last series will take place on the 13th of July. The results after Saturday's tournament sees Team Tuapa lead the competition with 13 points after receiving 2 bonus points. Abasele in second place with 11 points, Southern Marlins in third place with 8 points. They also received 2 bonus points. And Alufi Mako in fourth place with 8 points. That's our news bulletin for tonight. Good evening.